I finally feel ready to be creative again. Raising the puppy, giving it love and attention, training it, and being outside so much was physically and mentally draining for me. And for the last 2 months, I was exhausted. Finally, I am getting to a point where I have a balance between spending time on the puppy and taking time for myself. And I believe I am now ready for a bigger creative project. I want to tell you how this project came to be. It all started with this book that was on my Christmas wish list and that my sister gifted to me. It's called Wonderlands. In there are 100 essays about books. Each of these books contributed something special to the origin of the fantasy and sci-fi genre that we know today in literature. 10 out of 10 recommend. An amazing read and very, very interesting if you are interested in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. What stood out to me was the literature work Metamorphosis by Ovid, as well as the Iliad and Odyssey by Homer. As I read the essay of the Metamorphosis, I realized just about every big painter drew inspiration from this piece of literature. I want to read the Metamorphosis as well as the Iliad and Odyssey of Homer. And while I'm reading it, I will collect whatever inspiration comes to me, what scenes speak to me, and paint them in a sketchbook. In my last art supply organization video, I talked about the water-soluble pencils I want to use more. I have been for a while fascinated with this Strathmore Mixed Media Sketchbook because it is 100% cotton and hot press, so there is no structure on the paper. I already swatched different materials in there and am very impressed. The only thing that doesn't work in there are acrylics, but that's the last thing I want to use in there. I mean, look at this watercolor blob. I can't wait to use it. What I'm gonna do is I am reading the Iliad at this moment. 2 out of 24 chapters I already read, and whatever inspiration I collected in small thumbnails, I will now begin to paint in there. Maybe this kind of concept is for you as well. I love reading, I love art. Whenever I don't feel in the mood to make art, I can simply read and vice versa. Hopefully this will work out good for me, and I am going to start painting now.
Okay, this next part, first off, will be a bit of background information about the story in Iliad and also the motif I am currently sketching out. Afterwards, I will tell you more about the techniques and different materials I am using and my approach. Quick disclaimer, keep in mind I am not an expert. I'm simply telling you the things to the best of my knowledge. I won't spread misinformation on purpose. I'm simply doing this for the fun of it, but it could definitely be that I accidentally tell you something the wrong way or mix something up. We are starting out in the first of what are 24 chapters, or also songs. They are also called songs because there is a standing theory that Homer took existing songs from bards and simply combined them into a book. That is one of several theories about the existence of the Iliad. Anyways, we are starting immediately with a dispute between Achilles and Agamemnon. There was a father who traveled to the city and he begged for his daughter back. He even had a huge amount of money and wanted to give everything to Agamemnon. He just wanted his daughter to be with him again. But Agamemnon said no. He wants the people he conquered to be even more humiliated. He wants to take even more from them. And Achilles does not agree. He thinks Agamemnon is behaving like an heretical child. But Agamemnon didn't grant the father his wish, and his daughter Chryseis is staying with them. Chryseis' father, he pleads to Apollo. He tells Apollo his anguish and asks him to help him in any way possible. And Apollo hears this and thinks, well, it's time for pestilence. I'm gonna send some pestilence arrows into Agamemnon's city and they will suffer tremendously. That is the motif I have chosen. In the very front you can see the father Chryseis. On the left there is Chryseis, the daughter he wants back. To Chryseis' right there is Agamemnon with a hand possessively around Chryseis' neck. And in the back there is Apollo, sending out his arrows of pestilence. And he is furious. Well, he's supposed to look furious, but we'll see how that turns out. No Achilles yet for this first motif, even though they are already arguing. He is going to be in the second motif, crying on the beach, because Agamemnon is an heretical child and is hurting Achilles by taking away his war prize, Briseis, a woman Achilles was attributed who had been sacked from her village. The Greeks were, well, they were at war with lots of people. I am getting out my color harmony book, Pantone edition. I love searching for color palettes in there. I'm a big fan of pairs of 3 for color palettes. I believe there is even a historical category. I'll look for that. Timeless. Okay, I am getting the vibe. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's talk about the process I go through with a piece like this. First off, as you just saw, I'll look through the color palette book and gather inspiration from it, which way I want to go. Then I will have a look at my swatches and choose which colors speak to me and fit into the chosen color palette. These swatches are very handy. I recommend you do that. Well, you probably already do it for your art supplies as well. According to the palette, I choose my art utensils. I try to stick to water-soluble pencils. In my last video, I talked about how I want to use those more and am doing so right now. Because they change color as soon as you diluted them and I don't want to have all my swatches at hand all the time, I simply swatch them out on the sheet of paper. Then sometimes I correct the palette again, some color doesn't fit or I dislike it, and when I have my final colors, I start the painting. For larger areas like this, I still use normal watercolor. Also because I love to get started and immediately feel like I have already covered so much ground. It helps me boost my motivation. And then I start with the water-soluble pencils. With water-soluble pencils, you want to work in layers. That is one of the reasons I probably don't use them as much. It takes lots of time. They do dry quicker than normal watercolor because you don't need that much water, but you do need more time. But you have more control with the watercolor pencils. You can exactly say where you want to have the pigment, how much. You can even take some pigment away if you miscalculated. So that is nice and a very unique property in the water-soluble material world. I am adding layer after layer, creating depth. I did some art this weekend and I didn't film it because we had some friends over. My husband and one of our friends, they paint Warhammer miniatures, while the other friend and I,
She does hand lettering and watercolor, and I worked on this. I didn't get all that far, but progress is progress, and I'm going to continue working on this piece.
And I realized that I definitely need to learn how to draw and paint muscular men. I mean, it is a war epos, and Achilles is one of the greatest fighters ever, according to the Iliad, anyways. So I should probably learn how to paint muscles. Silly me has done the 100 heads challenge. I should have done a 100 hottie challenge. Then I wouldn't struggle with muscles as much. One thing I am missing in the water-soluble pencil world is good skin tones. I used my watercolor set for that. And I'm using a trick I saw in the videos of Margaret Morales. She paints amazing watercolor pieces. Her motifs are often from animes or Disney movies. She has perfected painting faces, in my opinion, in a very quick but realistic way. She goes with a wash of the skin tone, and then she dabbles in some red around the cheeks, the nose, the ears, the eyes, as well as the neck. And then I tried to get Apollo to glow. He is the god of the sun as well. So I didn't quite know where I was going with this. I only knew I did not like it at all. I thought it looked very stupid and soon decided to go with white instead of yellow. Then I thought maybe I should just go with the pestilence arrows and leave the face for a bit. But I really disliked the color for the pestilence arrows as well and quickly changed the shade. I went even darker. This is the exact color I am always eyeing from the watercolor brand Daniel Smith, but it's so expensive, so I never buy it, and now I know how to mix it myself. If in doubt, more contrast. I went with a very dark indigo wash and simply darkened the background so that my figures would stand out more. And I tried to fix the face, but no matter what I did, it didn't seem to work out. So again, I took my experience with frustrating pieces and simply started working on something else. And we have my Polychromos Faber-Castell pencils. I stuck with the color palette, but I wanted to give the figurines more details and use the colored pencils for that. You can do that with the water-soluble pencils, but as I said before, it does take a lot of time, and I had already spent so much time on this piece. I wanted it to be finished and done so that I could continue with the next one.
Okay, I think this isn't going to get any better. Not that it's perfect, I just am pretty sure I might mess it up if I continue. I spent much more time on it than I anticipated. I won't be doing that in the future, otherwise I won't be finished in 2 years' time. You might have already noticed on the right side, I drew Achilles crying on the beach. And I was serious when I said I need to study muscular man, because he looks like a big man baby with muscles. This is the start of my new sketchbook project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I also hope you will join me for the next few motifs. I will soon do a Find Your Art Medium video about oil pastels. If you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for my subscriber who asked about these and asked if I could make a video about them. I will be doing that in the next or the one after the next video. I can't wait to see you then, and hope you have a good time until then. Bye.